r/ask Reddit. What's the most unhealthy thing that society encourages us to do? Work when they're sick. While many people do have sick days they can use, they're actively encouraged not to use them. Some even get fired for it, and many did go to work sick. Work in food service where it's technically illegal to work when sick. But if you dare try and follow that rule you'll be lucky if you have a job. Yup, which is absolutely disgusting, in a couple ways. Not getting enough sleep, rest. People are encouraged to do so much in life, work, play, socialize, etc. that most don't get the appropriate amount of rest needed to function properly and maintain good health. Also, not getting enough sleep is a source of pride for many people, and a successful person only needing 3-4 hours of sleep is glamorized. I've done the 3-4 hours of sleep thing before. It's like living a nightmare. I was always tired, could barely keep my eyes open and kept randomly falling asleep. It's also extremely dangerous to drive when you're exhausted. That working an 8-5 job is really necessary. It's not true for all jobs, but some jobs have huge amounts of downtime and the employees end up just trying to look busy for large parts of the day. It's what I'm doing right ducking now. It's what I do every goddamned day. If I can finish a job in 2 hours, why do I have to just sit here for the other 7? You know I'm not doing anything. Why draw out the torture? As an Irishman, the most obvious answer to this is drinking. The social pressure to go on the gargle week in, week out is unbelievable. Australian here, I drink sometimes, but it amazes me how much people expect others to drink. I've been at social events where, upon arrival, people noticed there was alcohol available and went for it. When they saw me not drinking, they've asked me why I'm not already drinking. I explain that I don't feel like it that moment. So they tell me that they have money to buy me a drink if I don't have enough. I can't tell them that I have money but don't want to drink that moment enough times to make them understand. They just stare at me, like, but alcohol is available, you have to drink. I've worked for a company where free alcohol flowed almost constantly. Beers on Friday afternoons. Every single event had alcohol. You'd go for team drinks. Good if you like to get absolutely smashed. Not good when you're not a big drinker. There was an unbelievable amount of pressure to drink and party at any and every opportunity. Edit. Not a tech company or startup. If you enjoy being treated like absolute shit and working 60 hours weeks for occasional free booze and $20 cuss a year, PM me and I'll tell you the company. Mainly based in Australia though. Prioritizing work over well-being. This is something that I've been working hard on for the past several months. When I first joined the workforce about 1.5 years ago, I thought that my job was supposed to be my biggest life definer. I would work and figured my identity was what I did for work. However, programming and IT were never my passions, nor are they today. I've had 2 jobs in them now and they pay the bills and more. But I've found that my passions and ambitions will never be in my job career, but in my hobbies. My job is just a way to sustain a lifestyle that allows me to enjoy my hobbies. I had to learn this the hard way. I'm a software engineer, coding was my passion, until I entered the workforce. Now the last thing I want to do when I leave work is touch a computer. The vast majority of my hobbies do not involve computers at all, and the 2 that do tend to get neglected for periods of time simply because I can't bring myself to look at a computer when I get home sometimes. What I've realized is that for me to be healthy I need to go to work hard for my 8 hours, and I do enjoy and feel accomplishment with that work, but then go home and do something else. I will never prioritize work above my life again. To keep your mental problems secretive. I have been dealing with depression on and off for a very long time. My parents would not acknowledge when I tell them and say things like you're too young to be depressed or you haven't been through enough to be depressed. When anyone finds out you're depressed, they automatically dismiss it. No, you don't seem depressed. It's a huge problem that mental disorders like depression are tabooed and kept quiet. Edit. There's a lot of response and it's gonna take me a while to read. I've been seeing a therapist and dealing with the issue. I've been open about the past few months and it was something I didn't do before. I came across a podcast not too long ago that you guys might want to listen when you have time. It doesn't try to explain depression but talks about it in a way that makes it okay. There are others out there that go through the same thing, and they share their stories and how they've coped. In a way it's very comforting. The hilarious world of depression. I became depressed when I was pretty young. 13-16. I didn't tell anybody because 1. I just didn't want anyone to know. 2. I was afraid it would be dismissed as an emo phase or teen angst. I got out of it eventually but fell into round 2 when I was 17. By this point I was so worn down and tired, so I asked for help. My school brought in a psychologist and after breaking down and crying like a baby in front of her, she pretty much told me, "I think you're just going through a phase, sweetie." I was too stunned to argue with her because she had just confirmed that she thought I was too young to be seriously depressed. So I told my mom how I was feeling and she kinda just said, "What? No way. We'll talk about it later." And that was the end of it. I'm better now. I'm happier than ever. But it definitely wasn't because anybody helped me. Edit. I'm not going to try to validate myself to you guys. Just remember you've only heard a very small part of the story. I appreciate the support I've gotten here so far. This sounds suspiciously like you were just going through phases. Just be yourself. Don't change for anyone. Beach. Sometimes your coke need to be nicer to other people. People shouldn't have to just accept you for the huge narcissistic ass you are. Edit. Here's a picture of my Dodge in her Christmas jumper. Well, you don't have to change for anyone. But if you are going to be in a chat, don't expect people to like you and get upset when they don't. You can be who you want, but you have to accept the consequences of that choice. Tolerate all opinions to the point where we don't critically appraise anything and give everything equal weight. According to a British politician, we've had enough of experts. Duck you spam-faced prick. This is what's wrong with the planet. Basically, indiscriminately respect beliefs and opinions. I indiscriminately respect your right to an opinion, but if your opinion is ducking stupid for all sorts of legitimate objective reasons, then you should be told it's ducking stupid, not coddled or protected from criticism. Edit. This cuts both ways. Blindly accepting the majority opinion is somewhat ignorant. 2. If less dangerous. Critically appraising where you get your information, an expert's credentials and why they think what they do is important. It's uncanny, or not, how often you'll find that the opinion held by the majority of experts is based on the weight of sound evidence though. This is basically how we got Trump. I hate this line of thinking. Trump got the same damn number of votes as McCain did 8 years ago. Clinton just got 10 million less than Obama did because our turnout sucked. The loss was thoroughly preventable, but she didn't get the same support. Consumerism. Having to own the right stuff to have worth. I have family who is like this. Why are you buying brand name shoes for young kids who will outgrow them in a month? Why do you need to go shopping or eat out every day? Edit. Decent, well-fitting shoes are fine. But 4 or 5 pairs of Nikes at a time? It's not that they care about their kids' feet. For God's sake, they have Instagrams devoted to their children's shoes. A boy needs his Timbs, my guy. Parents tell their children to eat everything off their plates even when they had enough. This leads to kids developing habits that make them ignore the feeling of being full. Many take this habit to their deathbeds. As adults they just keep overeating. One of many leading causes of obesity. Edit. Very late edit. I just want to stress that the issue is not this simple and much more in-depth discussion can be found below. With that said, I would also like to stress that plural of an anecdote is not data. Which means if something is not conforming to your experience, it doesn't mean it's false. Yes, you may have been told to eat everything off your plate and you're packing abs below your chest, but many didn't fare so well. It's also very hard to prove causality as there are so many other factors at play. However, it pays to be mindful to the food culture that we predispose our future generations to. This is the case for sugar, calorie intake, and sometimes it's forcing our kids to eat everything off their plates. Also a million other reasons too. What I have written is not bullshit, but it's not a silver bullet to prevent obesity either. The underlying reason is good though, to either teach kids that they shouldn't have the privilege to waste food or force them into good nutritional habits, like forcing them to finish vegetables. Parents just need to be more mindful about portion control. I concede that forcing kids to eat vegetables might not be conducive in the long term. Thanks for all the information. But for everyone who can't handle seeing the word privilege without frothing at the bit and thinks that wasting food isn't a concern, well, let's just say that I disagree. Yeah, how is this not obvious? It's not like you've dumped enough food for a 20-year-old male on your 6-year-old's plate, right? Only give him the correct portion with healthy foods included, and then, in that case, having him finish his food is fine and instills the idea that he cannot simply eat the more appetizing options but must also eat all the vegetables and fruits. An 8-hour workday, when studies have shown we're really only productive for about 6. We should have more time to actually live life. I spend an inordinate amount of time at the office considering all the stuff I could be doing at home. Then when you finally get home, there's only 3 hours that I can commit to housework, home improvement. It's incredibly frustrating because I have spare time, but that's time I have to look busy at work. Eat food with lots of sugar. We don't really notice it, but most food is loaded with sugar even if it doesn't need to be, because sugar is cheap when compared to other natural products and flavorings. It also adds a lot of weight to the product, so the total weight stays the same while profit increases. Most companies don't care about this anyway, because people like sugary sweet stuff and will probably still buy it if they don't look closely at the sugar content and think carefully. Obviously, this excessive consumption is unbeknownst to ourselves, so a lot of people end up obese or diabetic. I've lived abroad for 5 years and came back to the USA over the break to visit family. Had turkey sandwiches at my sister's where we used some oat nut bread or something that sounded similarly healthy. The bread was sweet. It wasn't supposed to be a fruit bread or anything. Just they added it for whatever reason. And I couldn't even finish the sandwich. I mean, damn. I can't imagine her oat bread was more healthy than my go-to white bread made only with flour, yeast, and salt if you dump all that sugar in it. Fellow American here, this is honestly such a huge thing that I wish more people realized. There's so much sugar in the bread, especially the whole grain stuff, and people just don't realize it. I wish there were more proper bakeries for people to buy actual bread from. Edit to those telling me to make my own bread. I try to, but it's time consuming and I need practice. I generally buy from a local bakery down the street that makes some amazing sourdough. Anti-intellectualism. There seems to be a trend where ignoring expert opinions is cool. Doctors say to vaccinate my children, but Facebook says otherwise. Doctors are whack. Definitely going to side with this Facebook article with 159 shares. Also, illusory expertise. Yes, I know that you have years of study in your field, but the way I misinterpreted this study makes you look pretty wrong. Hold in our farts. Shit can lead to gastrointestinal problems. I learned to fart silently. Best to do it somewhere crowded and ignore it. Nobody will know who to blame. Same with sneezing. Pleurisy is a beach. Sneeze hard. Don't do the cute, polite sneeze. You see that car that you definitely can't afford on your income? You should definitely get it. I've been told I should just take that vacation because what are credit cards for? I'll answer that. Credit cards are for paying off every month while milking the company for points. In some ways it encourages the idea that what you're missing can always be found through consumption of media or buying stuff. I buy media and consume stuff. Am I safe? Only if you physically eat the media, then yes. Also, I realized I misread the question. Sharing everything we do publicly on social media. What amazes me is that so many people willingly reveal their daily itinerary, political opinions, sexual orientation, and God knows what else on social media. If government or police came knocking on our door demanding the same information that we give so freely, we would ask if they had a search warrant. Worship celebrities. Take the opinions of celebrities seriously just because they are celebrities. No, that celebrity knows jack shit about economics. Desk jobs, sedentary lifestyle, not directly, but we aim more and more towards sitting job, engineers etc, and it's impacting us in ways that we can't even think. It's only bad if you have no other activity in your life. Yes, it's much easier to stay fit and healthy if you're constantly moving around, but having a desk job does not necessarily lead to an unhealthy lifestyle. It just enables one if you're not motivated to do anything else. Yes, I'm looking at you. Bob, you work on the second floor. Take the stairs sometimes. Unfortunately, I can't find it, but I know I read a small study over the summer that said this isn't necessarily true. The point it made though was that, outside of sleeping, You really shouldn't just sit and do nothing for 8 consecutive hours. It's bad for circulation and the heart. Mostly, I think they said getting up every 30 minutes-ish and taking a quick little 3-5 minute walk helps though. But, I couldn't find the source. So, sorry, edit, earbuddy. I'm super stoked you guys have figured out ways to be a bit more active. Or whatever. Driving everywhere. The city I live in is not very pedestrian friendly and people drive everywhere. Even down the block because there are no sidewalks. I live in a major U.S. city with good walkability and public transit. I have a car, but can't get anywhere with the other two. I'm on the train as I type this. A lot of my friends live in the suburbs and drive everywhere. They are amazed how often I walk, even in inclement weather. It's a little less than a mile to and from the train. I love it. I find it peaceful to just throw on some headphones and walk. Be romantic in ways that are actually creepy and borderline repulsive. For instance, the movie trope of a guy basically forcing a kiss on a woman who has pretty much told him she can't stand him, or never shown the slightest bit of interest. But this somehow pays off and wins her over. Watching old movies is hilarious for this reason. AMC constantly has a movie on where the lead female finds the lead male repulsive, but in the end he grabs her and kisses her and they're in love. It's like the lesson they were teaching was, even women who hate you will eventually fall for you if you force yourself upon them. Hell yes. A lot of the things the guys do in these movies is downright stalking. It's not cute. Sending me a letter, text, email or whatever every day when I told you to please stop isn't going to make me change my mind. Overeating. It's certainly not as bad as, say, sweatshops, but the American labor system encourages you to settle for a unchallenging position you're overqualified for, dissuades you from taking time off, and encourages a degree of competition with your colleagues that chips away at your respect for humanity. It almost seems purposefully constructed to retard personal advancement. For men, bottle up our feelings. Men are known to be fearless and tough in the eyes of society, but we're just as fragile as anyone else deep within our hearts, which can drive us suicidal when it reaches critical points. Edit. Thanks for the first gold, kind stranger. I really appreciate it. To me it seems like much of society puts an emphasis and importance on getting married or starting a family either during college years or shortly afterwards, which I see as a bit of a ball and chain from being able to forward yourself in any career you may be looking at. Chase after the guy girl if they've said no once or multiple times. They're just playing hard to get. Go after them. Be romantic. Nah, son. That will earn you a one-way ticket to crazy town. Just because you bought them expensive flowers, asked them to dinner doesn't mean you're entitled to duck them. Nor does it mean they have to give something in return aside from sex. Edit. A lot of people have raised some really good points. Yes, sometimes persistence can get you the love of your life. I never claimed this was advice. This is my opinion and response to the question. Society encourages this behavior, and you can see it in a lot of rom-com films. Saying no once might be his/her way of protecting themselves. That's fine. The constant chase is not fine. If they say no over and over, rejecting the person who likes them, they don't owe that person anything. Apologies if my points were taken in the wrong way. I was simply saying that the overall idea of asking until you get a yes isn't the coolest way to handle stuff, you know? Most support the current work culture. You know how you should be an utter toady to your management and accept whatever abusive policy they put out in the abject hopes you'll be promoted to a better place or even be manglement yourself. Shit all over millennials. They're better with money. They know what makes them happy. They adapt to the ever-changing job education market. The real problem is it's difficult to market to the majority. Companies with shitty outdated products. We're looking at you. Fabric softened. Can't market to them and then blame them for financial losses. Baby boomers beach because these kids value happiness. Is that the whole point? As an Xer in between, I have more respect for the millennial than the boomer. Boomers were the most selfish generation their whole lives. They got away with it because of their numbers. Get married and have kids before 30 or else you are some kind of failure and waste of a vagina. The idea that you have to do something with your life. Not everyone needs to be a doctor or a lawyer. Working a blue-collar job and having hobbies is doing something. I understand striving for longevity in a job, but not everyone has to get a degree and end up in a white collar career. Drink juice, it's loaded with sugar. Stay in our bubble, watch the news TV, eat processed foods, smoke cigs, drink alcohol, overindulge in shopping, etc. Useless stuff basically. Compare yourself to others. Health at every size. Just tough it out, you're not weak, you're a stronger person than this. About clinical depression or anxiety disorder. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Bye bye bye. Find your one true love. TM. Get married. Have children. If you don't do these 3 things, you'll failure. Monogamy is not for everyone. Marriage isn't for everyone. Children aren't for everyone. And the worst part is there's a lot of pressure that if one step of the master plan isn't working, you need to push yourself to the next step because surely that will fix things. Your relationship isn't working? Get married. Your marriage is falling apart? Better have a kid. Not as much now, but tanning for vanity purposes. It's not cool anymore. Save yourselves. Drink excessively. Debt is at the core for many problems that we face today. Debt causes stress, which has poor effects on health and decision making. It causes poverty, which in turn leads to poor health. Financial issues are the #1 cause of divorce. It causes people to take riskier positions in life, not just financially, but in other areas as well. It inhibits people from realizing their full potential. It causes depression. Encouraging students to take on debt for college and giving students easy access to it not only preys on students who are trying to do what they feel is right, but it also stimulates the increases in college tuition. By flooding the supply of funds with debt, colleges can charge more. Debt is realized into a national problem where everybody feels the effects. If people were encouraged to live the lifestyle that they can afford instead of never being satisfied, I feel like this world would be a much better place. Edit. Aimed more towards personal debt than business debt. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.